Welcome back to It's My Biz, the big show for small business. And this week's show is all about the medical equipment distribution and sales company, Mars Healthcare. With us in the Biz Beam is the owner, Malebane Makafula himself, and of course our Biz Wiz panel. Well, we're going to get right down to business, and I'm going to start with you, Mike. He's doing a lot right, but you think he can focus his energies a little more in terms of understanding his target market better?
Absolutely. Let's start with product. There's great opportunity for Malebane to use his strength, which is in ophthalmic supplies. Leave the rest for the rest of your staff to do.
You're looking to expand what, the private business?
Private sector.
He doesn't want to give up any of the government business. He simply wants to grow the private business. And in order to do that, I've established 3 distinct segments for him to concentrate on. The first one, training hospitals. Get his product in the hands of doctors while they're learning. Second thing is, go to the doctors that are already in practice and get them to use the product. It's a whole third segment, and that's doctors operating out of private hospitals and the private hospitals themselves.
A whole lot of implications on cash flow in terms of who you decide to service, government or private sector.
I think you've got just far too much stock.
I saw all that stock. Door after door after door of stock.
The stock is actually money on your shelf. So work on that just-in-time principle. The other thing that you haven't looked at is factoring your invoices, selling your invoices to somebody else, a financial institution like a bank, and they will actually pay you the money up front.
Are you talking about getting the money up front from the bank before your supplier pays it?
Correct.
Something like that?
It works well, though, only if you are creditworthy, if your supplier or your customer is creditworthy, and there's no issues, there's no disputes around your service delivery or your product delivery. The other point that I don't think Malebane has considered is the effect of the exchange rate on his purchase price. Malebane might buy $10,000 worth of product or equipment at 7 Rand to the dollar, and he has to pay for it in 3 months' time, and that 7 Rand to the dollar now becomes 8 or 9 Rand to the dollar, so his cost of his product will go up, therefore his gross profit will go down. So I sincerely think he needs to go and speak to somebody about buying forward cover. Now, forward cover might mean you pay maybe 4 or 5% more for the dollar today than you would normally. But can you imagine if the Rand weakens from 7 to 8? That's a 14% cost.
We talked about stock a little earlier on, and we saw a lot of it.
The stock needs to be kept in one specific place, and it needs to be coded. So when you move into the private sector, yes, cash flow is easier, but the pressures become much more. Private sector clients want their stock when they want their stock. There's no leeway there. So your processes and your systems has to be absolutely tip-top.
You're running a stock management system currently, but you're not really exhausting its full potential. What's that system called?
Omni accounts.
There's many Omni specialists that we can refer to Malebane. It's a matter of switching on that module.
The formalities and the administration around servicing the private sector is slightly different. What does he need to think about in that area?
Well, I think the first step is the process of how to service the customers has to be mapped.
Is that similar to like a business model, the idea that you understand how you actually make money and deliver to a client?
Yes, it's a basic workflow. They have to start expanding in staff and delegate more to staff. Those staff members need to know how to service the customers exactly so that every interaction with the company is exactly the same. And then, of course, after that, the scheduling. There's a couple of ways of how to schedule deliveries to clients. First in, last out, first in, first out. There's according to deadline or according to shortest turnaround times. The trick is you have to do it the same all the time.
We've been talking about his desire to expand a certain market and their legal implications.
Malebane has been very great at delegating certain areas, but with that delegation comes the danger that you could be empowering people to go into competition with you, Malebane. So what I'd like to see in your employment contracts is a little clause. It's called a restraint of trade clause. Let me tell you, they work. You can restrain people from poaching your staff. You can restrain your staff from poaching your clients. You can restrain staff from poaching your processes and your systems. But your agreement must be specific, must be reasonable in relation to geographical area as well as time.
Coming back to you, Mike.
As he shifts from the public sector to the private sector, it's going to be more and more important that his image is out there. His corporate identity has to shine. It means new logo, new business cards, updated website, professional writing of his documents, professional approach, proper presentations, leave behind equipment. All this becomes so much more important as the business moves from one sector to the next.
Servicing government doesn't mean that they get a lower quality product in as much as they just do things differently. There's this thing called NAPI codes.
The National Pharmaceutical Pricing Index. And if you supply a medical consumable or a medicine to the private sector and it doesn't have a NAPI code, the patient cannot claim that back from medical aid. The codes are quite complex, so there's training necessary. And then as soon as that training is done, each product or medicine will have to have a NAPI code.
He needs to be head and shoulders above the rest. So how does he do that?
First of all, I would say through the service you give. You seem to be doing that already. Keep training, keep servicing. Secondly, through your professionalism. I've watched you in operation, I've watched you talking, that you've got. The next is in personalization. This is about building your own corporate identity, your own personal identity. Write articles, speak at conferences, have your articles published. That's the way you get out there. And finally, through integrity. And integrity for a small business, doing what you said you would do by when you said you would do it.
So he's taken a lot of thoughts into where this business is going, how long he wants it to last, generations to come, but there's stuff he hasn't quite thought about.
Malibane's got a fantastic succession plan in place. He's even developing with an exit strategy with the people that are going to be taking his place. But there's one little piece in the jigsaw puzzle that could make that whole plan fold, Malibane.
Dun, dun, dun.
And this is it. You have no last will and testament. If you have no last will and testament, the government has decided in terms of the laws how your estate will be distributed. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but your wife will inherit only a child's share of your estate if you have no will. When you leave today, go and have a last will and testament drafted. And in conjunction with that, you have an agreement with your partner, who is also your wife. Fine-tune that agreement so that in the event of both of you passing away, the business does not suffer.
Great advice. I'm sure a lot of you out there are picking up the phone, about to call your lawyer to make sure you cover that back door. Do it after the show, though.